The worst part about healing childhood trauma with psychedelic assisted psychotherapy was the intense resistance to healing that I felt through that entire year. So let's get into it. Hi everybody, my name is Jill. Welcome back to the Journey Sage. And this is the channel where I talk about my experience of healing childhood trauma-induced PTSD with psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. And this is the third video in a series where I am deep diving into the workbook to show folks what's there and to just give a deeper dive understanding of what this therapy is. In this particular video is all about healing resistance. One of the things I was not prepared for was how uncomfortable, how sad, how lonely, how much of a hit my self-esteem would be constantly taking. I had no idea how hard my internal system would fight against healing because, and I like to use this language all the time of my inner children were absolutely terrified of not having the protective strategies that they had created when I was of the age of the trauma of those inner children. So what I found, and I wrote about a lot in the memoir, was that especially the 2 or 3 weeks before every psychedelic scheduled journey, my system would be riled up and I would have all of these negative thoughts and feelings. And it wasn't until I went through the process and understood this resistance was natural, at least for me it was, for someone with PTSD level of trauma. So I want to talk about it. In the workbook, in the very beginning of the workbook, and I'll pop a graphic up here, I explain some of my resistant thoughts and feelings. And then as the workbook continues with the actual prompts that I use throughout my healing to create intentions, I purposely created a page for every single one of them, validating that I felt incredible resistance regardless of the intentions that I used. So let's get a little bit more specific. I'm going to pop this graphic up so everybody can see what I'm talking about in terms of some of the thoughts that I had as I went through my year of healing. So I basically just went back through my journals to kind of see, okay, what was I feeling? What was I thinking? And some of them that I wrote about specifically were, I'm not smart enough to heal, because obviously I'm so dumb that my brain is still traumatized. My doctors don't care about me. They're going to figure out that I'm a lost cause. I'm not healing fast enough. What will my healed life look like? This was a big one because a lot of my career success was all about being type A and getting things done because I was petrified of what would happen if I didn't. It was totally a fear-based motivation. And if I healed that fear, what would my career life look like? And then I'm so broken, I can't heal. I had a recurring thought my entire life that I must be broken for my brain to just act like this. Like I knew my behavior and my reactions to things were kind of over the top. And I just figured that was the way my life was going to be for the rest of my life. Now, how did I deal with resistance through my year of healing? I eventually learned, and it took time, I eventually learned that a lot of my resistance had some shame attached to it. And so for me, when I made the resistance or the shame public, meaning I talked to my therapist about my feelings, all of a sudden, shame disappears. In my opinion, shame just cannot survive when it's out and having a conversation. It just doesn't have a long shelf life. And so my therapist would very, very calmly kind of challenge, like, hey, let's really take a look. Is that belief or is that thought real? And so in the book, I give 3 potential questions that can be asked. Is this thought true? Is this thought important? Is this thought useful? And if it's a no, if the answer is no to those particular questions, it's really easy, and it got easier for me to kind of say, okay, you know what? Here's that thought, here's that feeling. I'm just going to kind of put it over here. I'm going to acknowledge that it's there. It has a purpose, but I'm going to keep on healing and not let that thought or feeling stop me. If any of those questions get a yes from you, then for me, I would have absolutely just talked to my therapist about it to truly zone in and figure out why why a particular question would have gotten a yes. And maybe it is a real valid reason to not move forward at a particular time. So there you go. The most uncomfortable part of this therapy for me was absolutely the resistance. I would say that this year, the year that I spent healing this PTSD, was probably one of the loneliest I ever felt internally. And that was just my inner children being absolutely terrified and just kind of really huddling together to try to form a little bit of safety. So I hope my experience with resistance kind of normalizes the fact that, that's what's going to happen sometimes when you're trying to change and you're trying to heal. And so there you go. My workbook and my memoir are both on Amazon. Head on over to thejourneysage.com for more information and resources. And now we're off to the 4th video where we talk about reframing. See you soon.